Well, I'd like to hear all your views on these economic approaches that we're talking about, the bottom-up and the social welfare. Which one works briefly and why?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's good to point Trevor. We have a tendency in this country of praising individuals as if they are God. It's not right to use songs that we do for praise and worship for individuals. I personally do not. And I want to strongly ask us to dissuade from that because it creates a connotation that may not be very good. It's only God that we are supposed to praise. Number two, maybe, Trevor, you asked this question to Gladys, and I want to attempt to answer it. What was the point of departure between the Ruto we know and the Raila that we know as well? Let's give credit where it is due. Raila has been, as Professor said, been in the trenches for quite a long time. He's been out of government and he has suffered for it. But then, you see, maybe having done this for a very long time and he never became president, even when he supposedly thought that he had won, he thought, maybe let me change tact and still see whether I'm going to win this thing, because then if I'm accepted by the Mount Kenya Foundation, tycoons and the people who call the shots, then maybe I will have, I'll assuage the effect. So the converse is true, that William Ruto has actually been in government more. Raila, if I calculate him being in government, is about 8.5 years, because he was in the cooperation government for 1.5 years or thereabout. He was in the Minister for Roads for about 3 years, and then Prime Minister for 5 years. He's not been in government beyond that. For William Ruto, he's been in government since 1997. You can put it a little bit earlier before he was elected. Even when he was MP for Eldoret North, 2002-2007, he still was very active. In fact, that's the time he became the kingpin of Rift Valley. Again, then also in his own, admission, that he realized that the higher that he went, he realized that people have actually disdain for the lower people. And him having risen up to that level, he realized that he needed to champion for their rights. The issue of bottom-up can actually be traced to the URP campaigns of 2013. I have seen a clip where he talks about we raise the economy from the bottom-up. And so therefore, in terms of the tiers of opportunity, let me not call them a privilege, you have people who have benefited before who think that it is their right to continue doing so. Those are the trickle-downers, if I can call them.
Yeah.
The bottom-uppers are the people who are trying to pull themselves with their bootstraps. And it is very clear that even the taxes are raised from the bottom up. It's everybody's contribution that we put into a kitty, and therefore a group of people who call themselves a political party say we have this ideology, we are the best to superintend over the resource. But the challenge that has been there, Trevor, is that he who has the keys to the granary tends to be more provident. I mean, he seems to first obliterate any evidence of poverty for himself. And we are all capable because we benefited from the feeding trough that is the government coffers because of the privilege of service. But then the question would be, are we able to sustain this conversation so that then we lift our other people, the millions of people out of poverty? That's the whole issue. So in terms of social welfare, so you look at Raila and you see now, because of his long trajectory of being left of center, you can go even as far back as, the Cold War, the Russia with his father, all the way. Yeah. And then, of course, you can see now William Ruto coming in 1992 to make sure that President Moi win the elections, and Jirongo and all of that. So you can see he was in the government. That's why then you see that. But then, so it's a eureka moment for both of them.
Yeah.
One who wants to say, can I try this to win the elections? The other one is, I've been in government. Can we change this government to make it more people responsive of their needs? For me, that is actually the dichotomy. But I also thank God because, Trevor, then Kenyans have choices. So that then you have one candidate who believes that the people are the ones who make, an individual to get into power. There's another one who says maybe the people may be wrong. If I need to get the system into my support, then I will get it. But the challenge is that if you look at my friend Sabina here, and I like her because we're having an honest conversation here, she's struggling to fit into that conversation. She's not a pro-social welfare person per se, because even that Bolsa Familia, as you said, Sabina, is not really a handout. It's a hand-up. It's a conditional grant. So you're told, take your child to school, but on condition that the child gets immunized, you see. So these conditional grants have been found to be more helpful because they make the person to attain another development milestone, so that then the whole issue then is that they get out of the bottom of the pyramid and out of the pit and leave the room to other people. The kind of social welfare we have here in Kenya, as if you look at Inua Jamii, is very good because, again, as a country, we've not agreed whether we are a social welfare state in terms of safety nets or not, is that it is more of handout. It's about giving 2,000 shillings to the old, the disabled people, the orphans. But it doesn't have a conditionality. For example, NHIF should be a condition that for you to be in this, you must also enroll for that. And there could be such kind of provisions. Whenever the money is provided by the state, you make sure that then you must attend clinic every other time. Those kind of things. So that then we have a milestone in terms of the universal health care. But at the same time, I also want to say that really, at the end of it, you need both. It's good to be honest on this platform. Why? Because the right is always about the money. The left is about the heart, the people. You cannot have people who are disempowered and then you want them to start on a par with others. You have to give them affirmative action safety nets so that they are able to compete with the others who are ahead of them. But at the same time, you cannot also have people relying purely on social welfare because they become now, they are milking the system rather than actually, they would not want to get out of it. And it has been proven in America. Those people who get government relief, or what they call in the UK direct payments, they don't want to get out of the system, because it is not conditional. You see, I mean, even everyone here, no, not everyone. I mean, like, if out there people are told you get freebies and your work is to just sit and wait for government to help you. People do. So that has been a conversation that has gone way back to independence. That's the conversation you hear between Kenyatta and Jaramogi. You know, so do you need free things? So we need at some point to say, what is the equilibrium? I am happy that then we've developed a social welfare system, but I think Kibaki got it right, because he empowered people, and that's where William Ruto is coming. Give people the tools, you know, to go and work. The symbolism of Wilbaronomics, for example, is to enable people to say, we can believe in ourselves, give us the capital, open up the markets, and there are the 5 areas here that the bottom-up economic model is looking at. Number 1 is to deal with the people who are jobless. And you can have a very good scheme of ensuring that you cultivate, you stimulate the economy, catalyze the economy through projects like mass housing projects. Because one house will have about 8 people employed directly. Then you have the people who are having small businesses. What are the bottlenecks? Most of them is about access to credit, but also issues of cartels and what have you. Then you come to the issue of farmers. How do you do forward integration, backward integration in terms of value addition? And then, of course, the issue of healthcare. Why? Because Sabina and I will agree with you that majority, even Gladys and even Professor, majority of the things we do now that Harambes have come to an end, thank God, is that we are always going to give money to people because of their medical bills. So if you have a healthy nation, then it is better, and that bill is very progressive. But it's also true to agree to a certain extent that we've lost traction because of this issue of the fact that the center at Jubilee never held. So we are victims of it, because if it had held, we would have continued with our program. However, this is how politics works. So it's for us who support the Deputy President, we are continuing with our 20-year program. We are grateful because we then don't have the baggage of non-performance. Because if you ask Kenyans today whether the economy is okay, they will tell you no. If you tell them that whether things are improving, they will tell you no. So basically, there is something that didn't work very well. And that also actually makes us to ask a question. Professor is a presidential candidate, and also there is my friend Ruben Kigambe, who is a person with disability, and I've actually done a very good tribute for people with disabilities in politics today in the Star newspaper, in my weekly column. Let's ask ourselves this question, Trevor. When we talk about our country as it is right now, are we genuinely concerned about improving the welfare of the people, or is it because the presidency gives one innumerable powers, like unfettered powers, to access business opportunities, so that then you end up then having those around the president becoming extremely wealthy at the expense of other people? So what is the real catch here? Because if that were to be the case, we would have strong political parties that then make the presidential candidate accountable, like the way we have done in South Africa, even recalling, like Thabo Mbeki was recalled, even Mugabe when he was dying, he was recalled by ZANU-PF, and even Zuma. Or also, We try to cure the issue of a dysfunctional presidency by securing the tenure of the vice president, now called deputy president, so that he's not just sacked at the roadside.
Okay.